Hello comrades, the Honey Badger here with another guide. This time it's all about steel. Let's see the topics, shall we? What is steel? Building the steel industry. What profits can I make from steel? Before we go on with the first topic, remember to hit that subscribe button, and whilst you're there, might as well hit the like button too and leave a comment down below how you use steel in your industry. Steel is an intermediary product from coal and iron. It has a lot of uses from construction to electronics, mechanical parts and building vehicles. In general, on your runs, you'll notice that steel is quite expensive to import, and it's one of the things that can end your run if you're not careful and import like a maniac. Moreover, the steel industry, if you follow this optimized build, it will be a late game resource to build. So without further ado, let's build the steel industry. Firstly, if you're playing with research turned on, make sure you use the Technical University to research Introduction to Metallurgy and then Steel Production Design. This will allow you to build the steel mill. Also, if you are playing with garbage turned on, make sure you research waste processing disposal and waste separation. As a bonus, you can also research steel recycling to get a little bit more steel, since as a waste, the steel industry produces mixed waste that can be burned and metal scrap that can be recycled back into steel, which comes also from your iron mine. To save some space and be efficient, you can build two steel mills together in the layout I'm going to show you. And you will not use any type of forklift to move the steel around. Moreover, in terms of resources, it's the most demanding of all industries. So make sure you've built a minimum of one coal mine for 50% steel output, or two coal mines for 100% steel output, and one iron mine. Be prepared for Bigus Chungus trains too, because you're going to need quite large trains in order to move all the raw resources. Nevertheless, due to the length of the trains, the footprint is also quite large. So, how do you pick up the location? Well, firstly, hunt for coal on your minimap. Check where it is and build nearby it, leaving maybe a kilometer in between. Hell, if you're brave enough, you can also create a conveyor belt transport instead of using trains. But that will make your republic seem a little bit cheesy and ugly AF. Well, if you want to go with the conveyor, you're in the wrong place, as this guide will not cover that. Another good thing to search for is to be nearby rivers. As an alternative to using your own resources, you can also use ships later down the line to get the steel from beyond the border without blocking the path of trains. Also, make sure you're checking all other resources on the map, making sure that you're not building over them by accident. Just for the example's sake, I know that I have oil over here. I'm just gonna ignore it and build it here, since it's close to 4 coal hotspots. So, to start off, around here should be theoretically fine. Firstly, get the train aggregate unloading. Make sure that the road is facing away from where you're gonna build the steel industry. Then get two big aggregate storages. It's important to be big since the amount of resources you need is huge. One on this side and one on this side. Good. As you noticed, the road points in opposite direction. Now decide which will be coal and which will be iron. It's very important to set them up from the beginning, since this will dictate the amount that you're gonna use on the conveyor belts. Next thing is to build some conveyor overpass. Firstly, for the coal, secondly for the iron, and then manually connect the conveyor belts. Apart from this, in the middle here, you're also going to get an engine transfer. The reason we're putting both a conveyor overpass and a conveyor engine transfer on the aggregate storage is because both steel mills will use more than 600 tons per day of coal together, so we cannot rely on a single one. Now let's place down the two steel mills. Make sure that the road is pointing towards the inside. It's very important to be on the inside. So we're gonna place one over here, making sure that we leave enough space for a road to go under. And one on the opposite side, the same way, we're gonna leave some space for the road connection. Perfect. Now, as for the finicky part, to play around with the conveyors. Remember, this is our iron. Therefore, one will go to our on the right side steel mill. The second one will go on the left side steel mill. As for coal, we're going to have, oops, we made an accident. So the coal will be connected to the last one and the iron to second to last. Now, as for the second coal, you're going to need to finick it around a bit until you get to connect it. If you cannot connect it at all, like in this scenario, so let's move a bit the conveyor engine transfer then. Here we go. Over here, it looks like it wants to connect, so that is perfect. Good. Now, everything theoretically should be connected. You're going to have a single engine transfer for this steel mill, a single engine transfer for this steel mill, and the iron is shared between both of them since the maximum iron you're gonna use is 400. Now let's build the roads. I left the roads on purpose in the middle because I want to make sure that I can connect them both at the same time. And by leaving this gap over here, I can actually place a garbage container. It doesn't matter if it's a small one or a big one. If a big one doesn't fit, then go with a small one. Also, in regards to metal scrap, make sure 2 of them are set for metal scrap, as the steel mills will produce metal scrap. Good. Let's see what else we're gonna need to connect. We're gonna need to connect these, and that should be all on this side. Next one, it's on this side. The first thing you want is a storage for your steel. Go with the biggest one, medium storage. Make sure that the road connection is not inside but on the outside, and then fiddle around until you manage to get it to properly connect. Just like this. Of course, we're not importing anything, we're just exporting from the steel mill. And then place a cargo train station somewhere around here. It's dependent on you which one you're gonna pick. Usually I go with one with a larger amount of tracks. That's because steel is used on most things, and I'm gonna have a lot of trains going back and forth from here. So let's plunk it down and make sure it goes to the cargo station. Good, we solved this problem. There's only one more problem to solve, and that is for garbage. The next thing I want to place is the steel recycling plant. This will also be our central recycling process for metal scrap. So let's bring it as close as possible to the location, making sure that we still have enough space for the road to pass through. Somewhere around here should be fine. let's delete the accidental connection that was created here and reconnect the factory here. Perfect. Just to make sure that everything is beautiful, I'll just swap it back to single lane. It's not important, but hey. Now let's connect the road. We're also going to have a garbage stand around here. So the garbage trucks will have a location from where to pick up the waste generated by the recycling plant. Then we can place down a aggregate storage. A smallish one should be fine. Even the smallest one is perfectly fine to be used here. Connect it with a road. And the final thing, we're gonna need another aggregates unloading station over here. It can be small with no issues, to be fair, because you're not going to have a metal scrap produced that much. Somewhere like this, because I want it to be easily accessible from this side. Basically, I want to reach the garbage can from over here. Perfect. Our last thing that we're gonna need is the workers for this. I prefer using the train stations because I'm a train maniac, but if your city is close enough, maybe to 1 to 1.5 kilometers away, you might be able to get around with using buses. Again, the steel mill will use somewhere around 1,300 workers per shift, meaning somewhere around 4,000-ish people. We're gonna discuss it during the next topic. So for now, let's get a passenger cargo station. Somewhere around here should be fine. Remember, if you can't reach the steel plants, that's perfectly fine. The underpasses are perfect over here. So let's build one underpass over here to here and use gravel roads to connect them, and also build the tunnel below it. If it doesn't work, most likely it's because it's too close to the road. So let's move it slightly further. We can also put it on the other side actually. You're gonna need to dig a bit under, so it allows you to construct it over here, just like this. Theoretically, now both steel mills are accessible. The steel recycling plant is also accessible, and everything looks good. One last thing we're gonna need to build, and that is the waste processing plant. So let's start with a transfer station. Oh, by the way, let's connect to the train station over here. Perfect. So as I was saying, start with a transfer station, then bring up a incinerator, small. Here we go. Then for the factory's connections, make sure that it goes into the incinerator, and also build up a cloud dump with rail connection. And again, make sure that the connection over here is one way towards the dump. Another thing you're gonna need on the dump claw, make sure you select mixed waste, or else you might have troubles with the incinerator spitting out metal scrap instead. Moreover, To save you from all the problems, make sure you also select mixed waste for the transfer station. This makes sure that all of the metal scrap that is generated anywhere nearby this transfer station will not also be added to the transfer station. Now, as a final thing, we need technical services attached to our buildings, which can access the garbage containers behind the steel mills, these ones and this one. Basically, we want to make sure that all of the mixed waste is getting transferred to the incinerator and everything else metal scrap is transferred to this aggregate storage. Make sure that on the aggregate storage, you're selecting the metal scrap. Then what I like to do is to firstly buy 2 snowplows, and the rest are waste trucks. This assures that winter time I won't have any problems around here. Another thing, let's assign mixed waste to the transfer dump, and the metal scrap, we're going to assign it to the aggregate storage over here. As for connecting via trains, you can select your own connections without any problems and do them how you want. I'll jump to an already built scenario where the rail lines are in place and continue explaining from there. Of course, it goes without saying that if you're playing with fire hazards turned on, you also need a small fire station around here. Or maybe 2 if you're also playing with disasters, since an earthquake can hit your republic. In terms of trains to use, make sure you're using long trains, as if you're using the best wagon at 14 meters long, then use multiple of 10 wagons. I haven't released yet a guide explaining why that's the case, because I'm waiting for the developers to confirm my suspicion first. But I'll post a link down in the comment once that video is out. Also, the train aggregate unloading has only 2 rail lines going into it. This is intended because one it is for coal and the second one it is for iron. An optional thing is to make parallel tracks individually for each single entity. For example, I have this half over here for coal, and I've made 6 of them because I have a total of 6 trains. So if something goes wrong and the steel industry stops, I'll make sure that I'll keep my main track completely free of waiting trains. And then I have 3 for iron. You can expand on this whenever it's needed for more parallel tracks if you're having even way more trains. Another important thing is at the beginning of the track, just after the switch over here, I've placed 2 waypoints. These waypoints are very important, as for the coal trains, you're going to tell them to go on this waypoint. So basically, if multiple coal cars come at the same time, they're gonna park on the parallel rail tracks. And as for the iron, I've done the same, but this time on the second waypoint. Also, the tracks in here are in a single direction. So they come through here and then decide wherever they want to go. Similarly, at exits, they are in the same direction and they can go either left or right. Just to prove how a train works, I'll just eliminate these 2 aggregate belt storages, and now we should see the trains pile up. Of course, it goes without saying that the trains are set to wait to unload and also wait to load at the coal and iron mines. And here we go. As we can see, all of the trains have piled up. The coal trains are all on the left side and the iron trains are all on the right side. Again, this is solely because of the waypoints over here. Also, if you have built the steel recycling plant, make sure that to the train aggregate unloading, you are getting the scrap train coming from your iron mine and set it now to the steel mill, since earlier it was set up to go to the borders instead. So, what profits can you make from steel? Well, for starters, you won't waste a good portion of your income on steel. Also, your maintenance crews will thank you. Moreover, it's a gateway resource to more expensive stuff like electronics. With this setup, you're looking at producing 86 steel per day. In terms of workers, with this setup, you're going to need 1015 workers per shift and a whopping 3045 workers for the entire day. In terms of manufacturing, let's assume you want to import both coal and iron from the borders firstly. In this case, steel will give you roughly 60% net profits from the resources alone. I'm completely ignoring fuel and workers. Be mindful of those. In case you're importing only coal and you're producing iron locally, then you're looking at a net profits of 70%. I wouldn't recommend this since the amount of coal you're gonna burn is way more than 600 tons per day, and that's a lot. In case you're importing only iron and producing coal locally, then you're looking at a net profit of 90%. Based on the math above, it looks like it's a smart idea to import iron, right? Well, it depends, since aggregates are slow to load from the border. Nevertheless, in case you want to do this deal, your train should have wagons of length 14 and be multiple of 9. So either 9, 18, 27 for the most optimal loading experience. And now, as for profits, monthly you're looking to make between 800,000 rubles to 1.5 million for a good month. But remember, it costs a lot of steel to lay down all the infrastructure and the railroad infrastructure before even considering to do steel. So although it's a high investment at the beginning, it really pays off late game. And that's all about the steel industry. Subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for the next guides where we dive into more industries, and some of them will use the steel produced in this guide. Also, like the video and leave a comment down below if you're exporting or importing the iron for your steel in your republic. This will help the video reach more people like yourself. Until next time, I'm the Honey Badger and I'm out.